I've been vocal about how I don't like the way Doctor Strange was handled in the MCU. And so ever since I made that video, I've been sitting here and I've been thinking, well, how would I do it? First off, I wouldn't do a movie, right? I think movies are really bad for comic book characters because you are simplifying hundreds of thousands of stories. It's not hundreds of thousands, but you get what I'm saying. Of serialized individual stories. Sometimes those individual stories are only 5 comic books, which is only about 100 to 200 pages. Or sometimes it's 10 or 20, and that's double, like 600 pages maybe of just action. And then you have multiple of those stories that you're trying to cram and condense. It's like 60 years of history that you're trying to put into one character. So I think it always works best as a TV show. So I would design it as a TV show. 20 to 40-minute episodes. Try to stick around 20 to 30, and then 40 minutes if they're big episodes or if something big is happening. 10 to 15 episodes per season, right? Because it should feel like a comic book arc, right? 10 episodes, a 10 episode arc, 15 episode arc sometimes, because each season should feel like a comic book arc. It starts somewhere, it ends somewhere. Even if I have 2 buffer seasons in here that are just miscellaneous adventures to add in characters, because you need some of those golden age stories to add in characters like Clea, who is a very important character to Doctor Strange, right? I'd make it animated because combat scenes would be better. The magic would look better because specifically the colors need to pop. And I don't think the MCU did that very well sometimes. Like the Time Stone was very pop, but a lot of the orange magic, it all looks the same, and it shouldn't look the same. It should pop. It should stick out at you visually. That's what it's all about. It's like hypnotizing visuals and the enchantments. Not every spell needs to be cast. You don't always need to say by the moons of Munapur or Crimson Band of Sitarak, right? You don't need to always say that out loud, but when he's learning, he definitely does. And I think on the tone of things needing to pop, we're going to use his classic design for this. The blue tunic, the yellow gloves. Even if it looks a little silly, he should look a little silly. He needs to pop. He shouldn't look normal. The yellow gloves with the leopard print, maybe that's a bit too much, but the blue tunic for sure. Blue tunic, red cloak. He should not be a muted character, and neither should his magic. That's what I'm trying to say. I would say that the characters, exactly the same as their comic counterparts, right? Don't change them like the MCU changed them. The only changes I want is pull more from their modern runs instead of from their classic runs. For the best example I have, Wong should be at Kamar-Taj when Doctor Strange trains under the Ancient One, so that by the time he becomes Sorcerer Supreme, he is already or is becoming a friend to Doctor Strange, because that is the best part of their relationship. Sure, he's a servant, he serves the Sorcerer Supreme, make sure that the Sorcerer Supreme is always not dying, but the best part of it is that they are friends. He is Doctor Strange's closest friend, even if they're not tight and Doctor Strange doesn't know everything about him. The manservant angle of it just doesn't work in today's day and age. Doctor Strange, it just won't do. And then give the Ancient One more character, I think, because instead of just the wise old man, give him some more character. The modern runs do a pretty good job of that, even though he is just Doctor Strange's teacher, wise old man. I think what the MCU did in that regard was actually pretty good as far as their changes to how the Ancient One was. It just really suffered from the rest of the script and the other changes that they made. So let's actually talk about this. I have 6 seasons in my noodle. Nothing much. Season 1, you start with episode 1, typical origin story. The surgeon, car crash, and then I want a montage. Not like a 2000s film montage where they play pop music, but just show all of the stuff he tries instead of, oh, I tried it, I found this one guy who cured it, I went to him, and then I went straight. I spent my last dollar going to Asia, right? In the comics, he's like thrown in dumpsters, trying off-brand super soldier serum, trying experimental drugs, hitting up heroin. Show the severe decline, how desperate he becomes to find a solution. That's key to what makes him him, I think. And I think the movie kind of glosses over that. And it did a really good job because I really like the first like 30 minutes of that film. I think it's peak, but I would, since it's a TV show, we get more time technically, and I would love to explore that one, even if it's just a montage, just show how desperate he is. Episode one ends with starting his training. Like the Ancient One says, okay, let's train. Takes him under his wing, and you start training. The rest of the season is his training, thwarting Mordo's plan, and it finishes by building up to and then him becoming the Sorcerer Supreme. Right? That should end the first season. The first season should build up to that, build up to the Ancient One leaving this plane of existence, and he becomes the Sorcerer Supreme. I do this to skip his Master of Black Magic era. We do want to tell those stories, right? But as far as the modern perception of Doctor Strange, you don't want to see that in your TV show. He's already a D tier character, a C tier Marvel character, especially at the time of a lot of those stories coming out. And while I like them, I really like those stories. He's my favorite Marvel character. They just don't hit as hard as the Sorcerer Supreme ones. So in order to move the story along, make him the Sorcerer Supreme, show how powerful he is in Season 2. Season 2 is just going to be some of those Golden Age stories, set the groundwork for his character, introduce other characters that you need for arcs in the future. So there's only a few ones that you really need. He needs to meet and defeat Dormammu once or twice. He needs to meet and have one or two adventures with Clea Strange. Personally, I'd skip the disciple part because, like, they're disciples, lovers, comrades. They're everything, and that's the whole point of it. It muddies their relationship. It's why they're not always, they're kind of on and off throughout the comics. But in a TV show, people aren't going to really get with that, so I'd skip that even if they don't get, because they're not getting married in this season. Don't do that. But you don't really have 200 comic books to focus on their relationships, so don't do that. Just go straight to comrades. They fight together. They're not a disciple under him. Maybe she's already the sorceress supreme of the dark dimension. Things like that, right? Idea of a you can also adapt newer stories like Doctor Strange, Nexus of Nightmares. That's from 2022. I have it not with me, but it's a good story. It's a recent story. I think it's a good one that you could tell. In season 3, right? This is when we get back into a comic book. That's one of the first buffer ones, season 2. So season 3, I want it to be Jason and Balacho's 2015 Doctor Strange run. Almost beat for beat. I don't want the Cloak of Levitation to be ripped to shreds, because he'll need that, because we don't want to do Loki Sorcerer Supreme right after that. It just gets really boring if he constantly loses the mantle of Sorcerer Supreme, so we don't do that. Make it lose its power if you want to, but don't do that. Only go up until after Blood in the Ether. Sorry, I have 5 seasons planned. I mean, I have 7 seasons planned. I forgot to write one of them down in my notes, but whatever. Change Imperator's design in this run, when you're adapting this run. We want him to keep him black and white because it will keep that contrast of him and his machines being black and white and starch, and magic being vibrant and beautiful, and the colors just pop off the screen. But he kind of looks like Gore the God Butcher. And by kinda, I mean he really does. And that's my only real complaint about that run. It's one of my favorites. You'll see, I'll say that a lot because I put a lot of my favorite runs on here. But the importance of this one is to show Doctor Strange's other skills and his mind, like his super brain, even when he doesn't have magic. It's personally, in my opinion, the best place to start Doctor Strange. Like, if you want to start reading Doctor Strange, start with that 2015 run and just read everything up until present, and it's peak. You get everything you need. But also, this death of magic and him having to recultivate it gives him a reason for him to be weaker and more cunning without taking away the mantle of Sorcerer Supreme. Right? Because he's already beat Dormammu once or twice, and then in the next season, I just want to do Blood in the Ether, the next part of this Jason and Balacho 2015 run. So yes, like, this introduced magic has a cost, things like that, and it allows him to be weaker and not always be able to cast the super magic spells that always beat Dormammu, okay? It also introduces Bar with no name, and this showcases other magicians in a way that makes it feel natural and as if magic really is older than Doctor Strange himself. And that's personally something I didn't think the MCU did very well. It seemed like magic was a very new thing in the MCU, and that's because we as the audience hadn't seen it before, but also because the only look we got at magic was Kamartaj, the ancient one who looked young. I know that's a plot point in the movie, but they looked young, and younger sorcerers that are maybe 30, 60, 30 to 50 years old, and they're using magic to enhance themselves. Like 50 is the oldest that I can see Caecilius. That's the oldest that I can see him being. Uh, and on that note, don't change Mordo. Don't replace Caecilius with Mordo. Use Mordo in this. Like it'd be weird. Um, and then season 4, Blood in the Ether. The only thing I'm changing about Blood in the Ether is Mr. Misery. Make him more interesting, make him more impactful, and in future seasons, do something with him. That's pretty much it. Season 5. More older stories. This is Buffer season number 2. In more of those older stories, you want to introduce characters, concepts, but there is like one series of events that needs to be hit upon, or you just need more time before you do the rest of my brain idea. Doctor Strange and Clea need to meet up and go on several adventures. They need to get married and be married for a little bit and go on several adventures. And at the end of the season, Mephisto needs to take away her memories of Doctor Strange in order for his help or whatever. That needs to happen. We need that sequence for season 7. Okay? Or season 7. You could write around it, but personally, I would like to have that there. I think it adds to the impact, it adds to the weight of their relationship. Season 6. I just want to adapt one of the best Doctor Strange stories, The Oath. Don't change much outside of small details to make it fit within the established lore, because I don't want to keep changing how magic works. We're just going to keep with magic has a cost, you have to pay the price, things like that. Make it fit within there. And like, you don't need to change anything about Wong and Doctor Strange's relationship, right? If we're 5 seasons in and they're not friends, even though they keep their own roles in the world and how they think of the world, and like Doctor Strange is the sorcerer supreme above anything else, and Wong is his servant above anything else. Even if that's how they think about themselves, they are friends, which is why Doctor Strange goes out of his way to get this cure for him, right? Adapt the Oath. That's season 5. I mean, that's season 6. Season 7, adapt the death of Doctor Strange and the concurrent Strange that happens right after that, where Clea's Sorcerer Supreme and Doctor Strange is dead and he's working under death to be alive again. Those two back to back. And they have to be back to back, because if you don't do them together, they both fall flat. When I read them together. As a whole, it's one of my favorite Doctor Strange stories. No, scratch that. It is my favorite Doctor Strange story. The first 5 issues are a whodunit. The second 5 issues are a cool battle against this outside direct force of Doctor Strange and Clea, with the added effects of he has death magic, she has normal magic, which is life, and so they can't touch each other. They touch each other. Their bond of pure love does that. It's a cool story, right? But it needs to be told together, or it's just not gonna work. The only things I change about this: don't have Wong team up with Wand at the end of the season. It can be done later if you want it to be. If you want to adapt that story later, it can always be done later. It's not like a pressing thing he has to do right now. But I don't really have any ideas past this season, so if you don't do the following story with General Strange and then Blood Hunt, and he loses his mantle after that arc, and I want to avoid that unless it's really worth it. But if you do that, then you can keep it. Otherwise, I don't think it's worth it, because it kind of takes him away from hanging out around Doctor Strange and reduces our side characters. All right. Now, the glaring issue is you'll see season 6 and you'll go, there's one character that you haven't introduced in any of these arcs before. That's the ghost dog is a pretty big problem. If you're adapting all of these stories, and I've said one for one, there's no real good point where he would be in the comics, right? There's no point where he's introduced because that's Loki Sorcerer Supreme, and I said we're not doing that one, right? We're not doing that part of it. We're also not doing the Dark Force Dome part of the Aaron Balacho. It's you end it right after Mr. Misery, Blood in the Ether. But I think there's two options for this. One, you write him out. I think that's the lame option, but it is an option. What I think is much better is have him be a B plot, one of those buffer seasons, either season 2, season 2, or season 5. Either one of those would work to put him in there and give it to him, and it would mean that at this point in the story, we're 7 seasons in, he has 3 really good friends, Wong, Zelma, and Bats. Even if you go, oh, Zelma hates him now because he keeps on keeping secrets. Oh, I almost flipped you off. It's Wong and Bats. And then he also has Clea. Even if Clea's not in this dimension right now, he has her. So it gives him a good supporting cast to have him. I think it gives him that. And even though it would be a different story of how he gets into this universe, it would just be a B plot. Maybe it's a B plot that spans multiple episodes. I think that's a good idea. I think that's fine. I said 20 to 40 minutes for that reason, because something like something like season 5, like I said, where season 5 and season 2, the 2 buffer seasons, where it's just older stories. They're much less complex, probably only 20 minutes, and only 20 minutes because of it's an animation and not still comic book frames to animate him casting these spells and things like that. Upwards of 40 minutes for some really important ones, like season 3, the Jason and Balacho run. I'm certain there's going to be several 40-minute episodes. Season 7 with Death of Doctor Strange. I'm sure there's going to be several 40-minute episodes. But that's my opinion. Let me know what you think. Would you change anything else? Or add anything, maybe add a season somewhere? I want to know, because Doctor Strange is my favorite character. He's my favorite Marvel character. And I think in the MCU, he was done really dirty. And if I was given a chance to direct it or to put my vision on a screen, that's pretty much how I would do it. Almost bar for bar with a lot of the really good comics. Even some of those are a little divisive, but for the most part, they're seen as good and as good Doctor Strange stories. That's pretty much it for me, though. Have a great day.